Today's episode is a bit of a special one for me. Not to sound trite, but my watch journey has involved a ton of trial and error. I feel like this is true for all of us. When asked about potential regrets, John Mayer famously said, the first 10 to 12 watches when you think you're amassing a collection. Though the numbers aren't the exact same sentiment, buying and experiencing various straps can be a similar path. Well, allow me to do you all a favor and save you the time and money by simply referring you to the European watch accessories brand Molequin, the pronunciation of said brand to be discussed later with today's guest Michael Luther. I've referred countless people to Molequin's site as I believe it to be the absolute best intersection of quality and price. Michael and I have grown our friendship over the years through Instagram, and we've also had several Zoom chats. I recently invited Michael to stay at my house on his recent visit to California, which was a blast to say the least. He and I sat in my kitchen to talk about the brand's early days, the ups and downs of business, and some of the costs associated. As mentioned, we even go over the correct pronunciation of the brand, something I've butchered up until this point. We wrap up discussing GT3 Touring ownership, my personal Grail car, which Michael owns. If you pay close attention, there's even a tiny Easter egg in here as well, so stay tuned for that. This was the first podcast I've recorded in person for quite some time, and it was so much fun. I'm your host, Wesley Smith, and you're listening to the Standard Age Podcast. Michael, you're in town not just for visiting me, but for your first podcast. This is why you came from Brussels.
I came here just to see you, Wesley.
Yeah. Okay.
No, really, it's my first podcast, and I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, no, thanks for...
San Diego, apparently.
And full disclosure, thanks for reminding me that we should do this while you're in town, because I wasn't even thinking about it.
I know that you've already done 120 podcasts, interviewed nearly everybody on the planet, and I was an afterthought, and I happened to be here. But that's okay. That's okay.
Not at all. Not at all. We've had several Zoom meetings. We've had several opportunities to learn a bit about each other, and I think this is obviously a fun extension of those conversations.
Yeah, completely.
You used to be a corporate lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you said last night at dinner you had a job between your law practice and Molequin. I call it Molequin. You call it what?
So let me explain this. It's
okay.
It's an important thing to get right at the beginning. So the correct pronunciation of the brand is Molequin, right? So it's a French word for a color. And we wanted something that was very difficult to pronounce and would stick. So words like this, I think, from a branding perspective, tend to stick.
Right.
But the pronunciation in the US, and I've given up trying to correct my Texan friends from pronouncing the brand name, is...
Do they add a syllable?
Well, yeah, they do. And, you know, it is much easier to pronounce as Molequin. You know, nothing to do with Anthony Quinn, but has become Molequin. And that works. It's good.
Well, okay, so interesting, because you pronounced it just then as a 3-syllable word, and I always say it Molequin as a 2-syllable word, a la Justin Hess.
Okay, so there's another option. I didn't realize that there's a 2-syllable, 3-syllable versions.
Right.
Molequin.
With an accent, without an accent.
Yeah.
there's so many permutations.
I think you just go with what you feel comfortable with.
Yeah, okay. Well, it's one of these things where you see it written 1,000 times, but I've never actually heard you say it.
Yeah.
So I never knew.
Well, we're a French company, predominantly, and I'm the only non-French speaking person in the company.
So what color is Molequin?
So it's not a great color. It's a purple aubergine type, dark, murky,
like
dirty.
Amethyst metallic?
Maybe a little bit. I think amethyst was definitely not the inspiration.
Okay.
For the brand name, but coincidentally, they're from the same family of colors.
That's funny. Okay, well, more on amethyst metallic later. But okay, so we're also drinking beer. You just had your first San Diego-based IPA called Alpine Duet. Shout out Alpine Brew Company. Not that they listen, but
It's really nice. It's great.
yeah, I love this one. Top three IPAs for me personally. Again, I think last night at dinner while we were chatting, I feel like you said you had a job in between. Is that true, or did I mishear you?
A job in between,
Like your law practice, your law job, and the straps,
so
basically.
yeah, it was really. I had a hiatus, so I worked in London, corporate lawyer, living the corporate life, which is not fun. Very long hours, and I fell in love. Decided that if I wanted to continue my relationship with, I would have to move forward without being a lawyer anymore, which is what I did. And the time in between ending my career and starting Molequin, I was literally searching for the right project. I was involved in a few startups, and sort of moved from one project to another quite quickly.
Okay, so I guess it was the startups is what I was thinking about.
Yeah.
What industries were those?
Pharmaceutical, surgical, instruments, companies I'd worked with in the past as a lawyer.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So, and then after the startups, I didn't do anything for a while. We moved around Europe a little bit. My wife was promoted a couple of times, so we lived in Belgium, we lived in Switzerland, in Biel, which is the watchmaking capital of the world. And at the time, I didn't even realize. I was living there, and I was surrounded by all these watchmakers. And I wasn't part of the industry. I bought a few pieces now and then. I was a collector, but not an accomplished collector by any means. So, and then after Biel, we moved to Brussels.
So, okay, what was the first watch you bought living in Biel? Do you remember?
So actually, the first watch I bought was back in London. I had an Omega Seamaster.
Okay.
It was a time of Pierce Brosnan.
Oh, yeah.
And it was a great looking piece, felt great on my wrist. I had no real direction as to what I wanted to own, what I wanted to wear. Seemed to fit the bill, and I wore that for a couple of years.
On bracelet?
Yeah, on a bracelet. And then, then it all started with living in Belgium. I can tell you about that a little bit later, but yeah.
What got you, was it Bond that gave you the watch bug?
So the watch bug started because I lived we moved to Brussels, and a friend of mine invited me to a watch get-together. It's the first time I'd ever heard of the word get-together. What is this thing? Why do these guys do this? He said, look, come, it's at a hotel just down the road. It'll be fun. We'll have a few drinks. You get to meet a few Belgian guys. I wasn't super excited about doing it, but I was free that evening, so I went along. And all these guys there, with they bought their little pouches and their little cases, and they were sitting down, hunched over these watches, discussing all the tiny details. And honestly, I was drawn in. I was fascinated.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Was there a watch that evening that jumped out at you, or you were like, I've never seen one of those before, and you're like, holy smokes, what is that?
So there was a few. My taste at the beginning was very, it was quite commercial. There was a few APs there, and Audemars is just, it was a brand that I'd not really heard that much about. Didn't really know much about the brand at all. There was a lot of Rolexes, a lot of Omegas. But I was drawn to the APs. I thought they were stunning. And there's one guy who had a vintage Rolex Submariner. And after literally just digging through all the other stuff, and I got to this piece, there was a light bulb moment. I was mesmerized by the patina. It had a faded insert on it. It just looked old, but it looked great on my wrist.
Character.
Yeah, so much character. And I wanted to know more. And that was it. Rabbit hole had opened up.
Okay, so that's interesting. So then when do you get the idea and or notion to not only start your own company? I mean, I guess having been with startups, you probably had an entrepreneurial bone in your body already. Mm-hmm. But when you fast forward to starting this business, why straps specifically? Because you started with straps, right?
So my view on starting a business has to be that if you're going to get involved in a niche product, it's important to be a part of or open up a a place within the community, whatever that may be, you know, a sailing community, a football community. And this happened to be a group of watch collectors, and it was springboarding me into a wider audience. And Instagram was playing its part at that time. You know, everybody was, I was really into photography. I was taking pictures of watches when I went to these get-togethers in Brussels, in Belgium. My collection was starting to grow a little bit. So posting on Instagram, reaching out to other collectors, connecting with a lot of different people. Before I knew it, I had become part of a community.
Cool.
And I didn't really do much with it for a while. The idea of a watch brand, a strap brand, didn't really hit me until I realized that I wanted to be a bigger part of this community, and I wanted to try and make a living from it. And I didn't want to be a dealer. So accessories, watch straps. I was invited to a strap manufacturer in Belgium. He had an open day, and he invited part of the Belgian Watch Club, which is what I was a member of. And I went to see what he was doing, what he was making, and it was mesmerizing. I was fascinated by all these tiny little leather bits and bobs that fitted onto watches. I started there.
What was the first color?
So it was a lot of, they specialized in exotic skins.
Okay.
So,
gator.
Yeah, lots of alligator, and lizard, python. You know, it sounds awful when you talk about it. It sounds terrible, but they made for some really interesting skins. Not completely my taste, but they were amazing to look at. And it was fascinating, you know. And then they did all the regular stuff as well, calf skin, nubuck, etc., etc. But it seemed pretty kitsch, and it seemed a bit not tasteless, but not really the sort of thing I would want to wear on one of my own watches.
Interesting.
The brand that I thought was doing a really good job was Hermes.
Sure.
So these guys producing this calfskin grained leather straps, perfect stitching, perfect finish, 400 euros a piece.
Wow.
So I'm like, damn, that's a nice strap, but is it really worth that much money? I don't think so.
You know, have you ever done lizard?
We've done it to a special request.
Okay.
Lizard
I don't recall.
So lizard is, you know, it goes right back to the 30s, 40s, and 50s, you know, as the first type of leathers used for a lot of straps at that time.
That's what I wore on my wedding day, is black lizard.
Wow.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. It is a great look. I mean, I think of all of them, alligator and lizard. Python, I'm not really sure.
It's almost like a drier scale.
Yeah, yeah.
Like quite to the touch dry. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't have the same finish. I speak having sold Python bags through Gucci.
Right.
And seen those, like, I mean, they're beautiful.
Yeah.
It's almost like getting a book matched piece of marble in your shower.
Yeah.
Like it has that sort of effect.
Yeah.
Where it's like very symmetrical and it's almost architectural in color. Anyway,
But the size of the, this is getting into probably a little bit too much detail, but the
No, that's
size
okay.
of the reptile plays an important part in
Right.
what you can actually make with that skin. So, you know, for us, for example, a lot of our alligator skins we buy alligator skins from one of the best tanneries in France, but they're small skins, 30 centimeters long, because the scale is small.
Right.
And you can see all the scale on the strap itself. But, you know, an alligator, these things they can be massive. Mississippi alligators, you know, I've heard stories of them being 3 meters long, you know, and that will make you a big bag.
Yeah. Yeah. What's the strangest request you've ever gotten for a skin?
We've not had any human skin requests, if that's what you're asking.
No,
me.
no. Yeah, it's very Silence of the
my
Lambs.
dear departed husband, I would like one small memento. No, we've not had anything crazy like that. We have people with their own particular taste. You know, they would like a particular color with a particular stitch, with a particular lining, because we have a very popular MTO service, a customization service. So that's something that we've developed over the years. The turnaround times are really quick. It's not super expensive, but you know, we don't offer a broad palette of colors, because it just, you know, it's impossible when people are asking for, you know, orange lining with purple stitching and, you know, So we tend to push those types of requests back a little bit.
Right, right. Yeah, no, that makes sense. I think you and I started to talk about this as well. Is like, do you often know what watches the straps are going on? I think we were sort of touching on that last night.
So people that order through our website, obviously we never have any contact with them. They just order the strap and it gets shipped. But through the MTO service, we really do get some serious insight into the type of watch that somebody wants a strap for. So if it's a Cartier and it's got a particular type of deployant, then they call it a D-buckle. So it needs a thin tip, so it's folded over. Or if it's a Patek, it needs a thin tip, so it works with the deployant. We do. We get a fair idea of the sort of watches that our custom straps are going on.
How do you... Okay, so I've obviously had my fair share of straps. I've obviously bought my fair share from you.
Yeah, I hope so.
But how do you actually determine the strap length? Because you offer a short and kind of a regular size, if you will.
Yeah.
Now, the short for me literally works perfect, and I say that's only determined because the pin and the pin buckle is in the middle hole of what are there, 7 holes?
6 holes.
6 holes?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought there was an odd number.
We do have slightly different punches. We have cut 7 before, but we reduced it to 6.
Okay, so maybe mine were just older than because I think it was dead in the middle, and I was like, oh my god, this is perfect.
Yeah.
Well, full disclosure, I was looking for a color that you were sold out of, so I went to somebody else's website.
Yeah.
This was like 4 days ago. And their straps for short measured different.
Yeah.
So it was like the side that has the pin buckle on it, not the pointy side.
Yeah.
Theirs was shorter while the other one was longer, which would obviously make the watch seemingly offset and or the pointy end be too long. I don't know if this makes sense in an audio only podcast, but
pointy long.
But like, so how did you decide on, was it 70-105?
So these are industry standards.
Oh, okay.
So 115/75, for example, is an industry norm.
Who set that standard then?
So a lot of the strap manufacturers going back through generations that make OEM straps for a lot of the big brands out there.
Okay.
So a standardized medium length that will fit, because if you imagine you are a watch brand and you sell thousands of watches a year, what a strap watch in particular, what size are you going to put on that watch? So men's watches 115/75. And this is for a standard size case, between 38 and 40 mil. And what size are you going to put on all the women's straps? Women's watches, we're going to put a shorter strap, so 105/70. So that has become industry norm.
I see.
I think people have got a little bit taller, people have got a little bit fatter, but wrist sizes have hardly changed over the years. Wrists remain wrists. It's very rare for us to sell a very long strap. Big wrists are quite rare. So those are the two, and there are tweaks in between. You can go from a 105/70 is a short strap, but a 100/65 is even smaller. And if you've got a tiny watch like a Cartier, it might require something a little bit longer because the case is really small.
Right.
So it takes some length off the strap.
Right.
So there's a bit of a science behind it. I, for example, I fit a medium strap, but I'm a little bit of an in-between medium and short. So neither a short nor a medium fits me properly, to be honest.
Yeah, it's interesting. I guess I never really thought about that, which means I just haven't really thought at all, because it makes complete sense. Because I guess when it fit me perfectly in the middle, that was on my 5513, for example.
Yeah.
Obviously, like if I wanted to put a strap on, I don't know, my 36 mil date just, or OP no date rather.
Yeah.
It's probably not going to be in the middle, actually, now that I think about it. Yeah.
So, through our custom service, we do get a lot of people saying, this is the size that fits me on my Lange, for example, and this is the size that I want. And they go through a ton of custom straps from us at their particular length. Length's important, to get a good fit. Some people wear their straps tight, some wear them relatively loose. When it's warm, your wrist can swell up a little bit.
Yeah. How often do you change your own straps?
Every day.
Do you really?
No.
Oh, I believe you.
No,
You're quick with it. So
no, I tend to be. Honestly, Wesley, I have to say, at the moment, I tend not to wear a watch that much. I know it sounds weird from a watch guy, but first of all, there's this big fear of being jumped on, and
right.
I know that a lot of people will frown upon me saying that because it's all about common sense and not wearing your watch around your forehead, etc. Walking through London, but I wearing a long sleeve or a jacket over your watch, etc. And that's fine. I'm not overly worried about getting mugged or anything, but I've got I'm working. My watch is clunking on my desk or on my laptop, and so when I do wear a watch when I'm going out or doing something like that, then I'll wear a different strap. I do obviously have lots of straps in my drawer.
Do you pick the outfit and base the strap on the outfit?
Yeah, a little bit.
Or do you do it the vice versa? Do you pick your outfit based on the watch?
Well, the connection is always with the outfit and the strap, so I don't really care about the watch itself. I won't match the strap with the watch that much. It's normally about what I'm wearing.
So do you go matchy or do you like contrast?
I like contrast.
Yeah,
I think
same.
matchy is okay. Don't think there's anything wrong with that. If I'm wearing I like green. I wear a lot of green. There's a lot of green in our collections.
Right.
Military green. It's really cool. It's a hip, trendy color. And yeah, if I'm wearing jeans, I like wearing a green strap. The brown straps are really nice as well in suede. The classics. But on the odd occasion, I'll wear, an orange or a bright yellow strap on my vintage Daytona in the summer, wearing a t-shirt at a bar, getting drunk, and then getting mugged as I leave. Because
of course,
yeah. No, but
because you said, "Look at my pale blue strap."
Yeah, exactly. Bright orange, bright yellow.
Right. Oh, that's funny. As far as like the business is concerned, like how do you emotionally handle the ups and downs? I mean, I don't even know what you would define as an up or a down other than sales, for example. But like with the pitfalls, with the struggles, like, okay, let me rephrase this question. What was the hardest part so far?
So from the inception of the business, it's been a relatively it's not, I wouldn't call it plain sailing, but it's been a consistent, strong journey. And one of the reasons for that has to be that we've tried as a company to run the business ethically, to run it with consideration for our suppliers, for our customers, for doing everything correctly, paying our bills on time, paying our rent, et cetera. Right. And I think we talked about this a few days ago, this idea of living your life with a true moral compass and being a person of being honorable, and really just not messing people around.
Right.
And the reality is that trouble just doesn't follow you if you don't put it out there. And it's been relatively smooth sailing. We've had issues. We've had production problems, people being off because they're not well. So we've had a slowdown. We've had people that have retired. And it's caused issues with continuity, succession planning, etc. And then scaling up. Growth is great, but if you don't control your growth and you don't make sure that you have systems in place to deal with that, then it can cause problems. And we've had issues with people returning products because they ordered the wrong size or it just didn't work, and it's taken a bit of time for refunds to come back, or not responding literally instantaneously when people DM or email you. It's just today's market has been it's been affected by the Amazons and super fast deliveries. You can order something literally in the morning and it arrives in the afternoon. People's expectations of e-commerce are really that high now that sometimes for a relatively small company it's hard to keep up, and it's hard to deliver to those expectations which everybody out there now expects. And honestly, I'm the same. I order something and I laugh and joke about this, but if I'm ordering a jacket that's quite expensive, I'll order two in two sizes, and I'll send back the one that doesn't fit. And our customers do the same. They'll order 2 different variations of a strap in the same color because they're not sure which one will work with their watch, and send one back. And I'm okay with that. Some countries do it more than others. I won't mention any countries. But it's part of e-commerce, and it's part of who we are, and it's part of our growth as long as we can manage it properly.
So I would imagine your return rate is more based on picking a favorite of what they ordered as opposed to an actual return.
Yeah, no, we do get them. We do get a normal return. I got the strap. I don't like it. I want to send it back.
What's the biggest complaint you get? Or most common? That's what I mean by biggest.
So I want to just, I think one of the biggest issues that most strap manufacturers have, especially smaller manufacturers that are a little bit sort of artisanal, a bit Etsy based, etc., they struggle with sizing. So cutting with accurate tools. You need an accurate tool to cut a perfect 20mm strap. If your tool is a little off, it's not as sharp as it should be, that may end up being at 20.6, 20.5, 20.8.
Right.
And people receive the strap, doesn't fit their watch, or it's tight, or it gets damaged. We don't have those problems because, it's something we've worked very hard to create the perfect fit. So fit now is no longer an issue. At the beginning it was a little bit, but we fixed it. So, stuff fits properly. The colors are photographed correctly on our website, but we do get people whose, screens haven't been calibrated properly. So they receive a strap and it looks completely different to the way they saw it on their screen.
Oh, I see.
There's nothing we can do about that.
Sure.
It's
that's photography.
It is, yeah. So, the biggest problems we have really are just people saying that they ordered the wrong size. That tends to be the biggest issue. It's quite a technical exercise trying to understand what size will fit on your watch if you've done it for the first time. So educating our audience as to how you imagine trying to take a bracelet off a modern Rolex. It's not easy.
Right.
And people don't have the time to run into town to get their AD to take it off, and ADs just don't like doing it.
Yeah.
If they know you're going to put a third-party strap on your Daytona, they're going to be reluctant to take that bracelet off.
Interesting. Do you remember your first sale?
Wow, that was a long time ago. I've forgotten it now. I did remember it.
So what's funny is I don't really remember the first sale because it was probably a friend or a family member.
Yeah.
But I remember one of my earlier sales. It was I used to track, I don't know if you did this. I would track the number of sales from the people I never met before, because that meant that my brand is actually getting out there.
Yeah.
Somebody heard about it somehow.
Yeah.
And I remember customer number 9 was Sean O'Connor, who was on this podcast.
No
he
way.
was a very early guest.
Really?
He and I have become quite close.
Wow.
Not close, but I consider him a friend for sure.
Yeah.
And even on his podcast, I think he was I'm customer number 9.
Wow.
So then it took me 8 purchases or 9 orders to get somebody that I never heard of. But it was kind of exciting, you know? Do you remember those early days of the kind of excitement?
I do, yeah. I think in those early days, I had no clue where this was going to go.
Right.
So there was a lot of kitchen table discussions, packing in the garage, making trips to UPS to go and drop off packages, meeting at the local cafe for coffee and discussions about strategy. So those early days were fact-finding missions. We were trying to understand whether this would be viable or not moving forward.
What was the initial investment that you thought was okay, I'm willing to put this into this business before I pull the plug? Was that a conversation?
Yeah, it always is, when you start. I think we,
what was your first order size? Do you remember?
It was a single strap. So it was definitely just, this was obviously a retail.
From a manufacturer thing.
Oh, okay. All right. So
when you ordered straps to sell.
So at the beginning, we worked with a manufacturer, and it was, we outgrew them very quickly. Oh. So our production was, for me to place an order, sorry, I'm falling over my words here. When I placed
It's the IPA.
original, it is stronger than it looks. So the original size of orders were, 2, 3, 400 euros, 500 euros. We get up to 1,000 euros, and it's like, wow. But we were having some blowback. We were getting some blowback on sizing. We were getting delays from the manufacturer. It was just getting really hard to control our supply line. So about a year or so in, when I started to realize that there was a demand for our products, but we had some quality issues, it was at that point, it was literally a crossroads. Do we go down the route of making these straps ourselves, controlling it, dealing directly with the tanneries and controlling the leather production, controlling the colors? The first time I knocked on the door of a tannery, the tannery said to me, "We have no clue who you are. Please go away." So the second time we knocked on the door, the second time we tried in French, and they still told us to go away. And then after banging on the door again, they said, "Well, look, if you want to play in the big boys pool, then you have to place a decent sized order. We're not here. We're not here for fun. We're here. We have limited production."
I know that feeling all too well.
Yeah. So, you know where I'm going with this. I'm not going to talk about numbers and stuff like that, but the numbers were huge, and the investment was massive, and I wasn't ready for that yet. So
you went elsewhere?
No, we stayed with, we discussed it with the manufacturers we were working with, but they just weren't getting it. Demand for our products was starting to grow. We were literally dominating this manufacturer's complete production.
Oh wow!
And it got to the point where we've got to do this ourselves. We've got to bring this all under one roof in house. We've got to talk to the tanneries. And after a year or two of just negotiation and rebuilding and developing and investment, we got everything under one roof, and the tanneries started to work with us. We built our own collections from the ground up. We improved our quality, and the idea was to try and produce a strap the same quality, if not better, than Hermes. They were the as far as I was concerned, they were the standard, and they were the strap that. The attention to detail is outstanding, and I hope we're getting close to it now. But
I think you are. 100%. But was it easy to find those early days manufacturers, or were they kind of like, "Who are you?" Like, "Oh, this is what you want."
Strap making is not a. It really isn't a. You can't Google it. It's not an industry. It's a dying industry with little pockets of generational. Production, which is dwindling away, and the reason for that is because everything is coming out of China and Indonesia. There's strap production in all over China. There's strap production in Vietnam, for example, South Korea, and the difference is the leather. Production, they can produce a good quality product. There's no doubt, but the difference is the leather,
the raw material.
Yeah, the raw materials makes a big difference.
Yeah, of course.
It just, I don't think it works as well, but they can produce volume. They really can.
Now, we don't have to talk about this if you don't want to, because I know that you do produce straps for other people.
Yeah.
What percentage of your business is direct to consumer versus wholesale?
I'd say it's half and half. And I'd say that our B2B or our wholesale business is, as our reputation is developing, because not everybody knows that we do that, that we produce white label straps, but more and more retailers are finding out and they're getting in touch. We make for a whole host of different types of customers, from smallish dealers that just want a nice strap to put on a new piece, to photograph and put it on their website and sell it quickly, to the Richemont Group. We're an official supplier of the Richemont Group. We supply lots of big household names within the industry that are retailers. And I want, my job at Molequin is to grow that and to develop our wholesale, which I'm working hard to do right now.
Who's your dream client?
Well, I already have our dream client, and I think
man, God, that must feel good.
I already do. And these guys, I don't mind saying, it's a collected man. Those guys are, they are everything you would expect them to be. They're super easy to deal with. They run their business with integrity. They're a great bunch of people. They're expanding and growing super quick. Everybody knows who they are. They know why they have grown so much. The content they produce is outstanding. And, we've worked over the years, we've worked very closely with them, and they've stayed loyal to us. They could go to anybody, but they've worked closely with us. And long may that continue. I hope so. I hope they're listening to this.
So how do you handle color? And I mean that with regards to what to introduce when, what to cancel, discontinue. I mean, obviously, it's easy to figure out what's going to get discontinued. It's probably twofold. Either it's no longer available or it doesn't sell. But maybe you could speak more on that, maybe not. But as far as introduction of new colors, like what's the approach? Is it just whatever your heart's telling you?
So we obviously have a ton of market research now. We have a ton of customer data, and we use that. We look at it very closely, and it's sometimes very clear that a strap color has been a dud and it's not going to sell that well. And on other occasions, we have a strap that is super popular, flying out the door. Then after a while, it slows down and becomes less of a thing, less of a fad, a less popular color. I think the job for us, it's really important for us to make the market a little bit. So if we introduce a color, we'll promote it, we'll talk about it. We'll show it on watches. We'll give people ideas as to how it will work, and it creates a demand for it. We do try and be a little bit different, and we do have control over the entire supply chain. So we can get a Pantone reference. We can sit down with our tannery and say, look, this color is a color we'd like to develop. Can you let's talk about sampling? It's an expensive, long process. I mean, I estimate that a color, launching a new color, is a 20 to 25,000 euro investment.
Wow.
Yeah. So we've got probably about 3 to 4 months of development, and then we've got to test an initial phase. If it's an alligator color, then there's even more money. It's crazy.
Right. Sure.
But so, when you look at our Nubuck collection, for example, it's like 19 different colors. I'm not saying that we have every single color in production, and to touch on your point regarding what we discontinue, if a color's not selling, I'm not going to reinvest 20,000 euros. So we may have some stock left. It stays on the website. It shows some variety, because you'll always get that customer that says, I want that electric pink strap because that goes perfectly with whatever, my shoes. And so we keep it on the site. And when it's done, it's done. And it gets taken off.
You don't have a ton of straps with a contrast stitch, I noticed.
Is
that by design?
So we started as a big contrast stitch strap company. We had some of our big customers, wholesale customers, were selling collections with tone-on-tone stitching. So we decided that we didn't want to not tread on their toes, but we didn't want to compete directly with some of our clients. So we remained as contrast stitch for a while, but then we introduced some new leathers like Saffiano and suede, and we created a box stitch in tone on tone with the suede, and Saffiano just looks better tone on tone.
Well, I think a contrast stitch, in my opinion, typically looks more casual.
Yeah,
and I feel you guys do elegant. I wouldn't say minimal, because like, what's minimal about an alligator strap? I mean, it's kind of it's exotic, quite literally.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just think there's like a casual approach to a contrast stitch, which I love, like the elegance of your company. I think it's a very elegant company.
Thank you.
What we haven't mentioned Sydney.
Yeah.
Your business partner is Sydney.
Yeah.
Hi, Sid. How did you guys meet? And what's sort of the division of power, so to speak? Like, who does what?
So Sid and I are, this is there is no way that I could have built this business on my own. And there's no way that Sid could have built Molequin on his own. It was a complete synergy of skills that has worked really well. I've had plenty of business partners in my life. And honestly, it can be a relationship fraught with issues.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Well,
besides
any relationship, really.
Yeah, yeah, and you know, when you find that that moment, I'm not saying he's my soulmate, far from it, but you know, he's from a business perspective, he's my business soulmate. You know,
Yeah.
there is an age gap between us. There's a generational gap between us. I am completely plugged into the watch collecting community, and Sydney's not. You know, he wasn't.
Interesting.
But he's French. He is his ability to communicate is exceptional. I'm saying all of this because I know he's listening.
Well,
But
I'm
it's
sure.
true,
To
it's
be
true,
a
it's true.
soulmate, you got to be on the same page.
Yeah, you know, and he's been able to nurture the relationships with the tanneries, and that has been, you know, without that we would not be where we are. Production, but the biggest thing that Sid's done, and you know, this is a bit of a black spot right now. We'll figure it out, but he has been responsible for the way that our brand has been put out there, from Instagram to the branding to the website, all the photography. You're literally curating all the content, the visual content.
So he shoots it all.
Yeah, yeah.
Because
And
I
he's-
know you're into photography, so I wasn't
yeah,
sure.
so we shoot it together.
Yeah.
But you know, we can't spend all our days shooting watches, and Sydney has taken over that role with relish, and he's proven to be really, really good at it. You know, far better than I could have done. It's not just about the shooting; it's about the post processing. You know, it's about you know, cleaning up a shot, making sure the dial looks great, making sure that the strap is the right color before you put it on Instagram, etc. So, you know, that has taken a lot of time, energy, and effort, and he's taken that role on and made it happen. And my job has literally been bringing in, you know, bringing as close as I can to the collecting community. I'm here today in San Diego for that reason. You know, besides spending time with you and spending time with my collecting friends tomorrow and Saturday, then I'm heading home. You know,
Right.
and that's how we've grown, and that's how it works. And it really does work.
That's great. I want to talk cars.
Yeah, let's go.
What was your first car?
A Renault 5, and I had to. It was my mum, bless her. She bought me this car when I passed my test. She bought it from her local mechanic, who used to service her Volvo, and he. I would literally, if I didn't start the car for 2 or 3 days in February, it would have a flat battery. So I was forever pushing it up and down hills,
Oh my gosh.
jumping in it and starting it. Sometimes I didn't have anybody to help me. I'm literally door half open in neutral, pushing it down the road, jumping in,
I just think of the Karate Kid. You know when they do
So that was my first car, and it meant a lot to me. You know, it was a moment. And I know I'm just jumping the queue here a little bit, but coming full circle, right now I am super excited about my next car, which is going to be another Renault 5, the fully electric Renault 5 EV. I saw pictures of it and fell in love, and it's nostalgic. You know, the thing is a great looking car, and it gives me the range that I need to travel from Brussels to The Hague. And yeah, and then a few little bits in between.
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, my first car would never come back around.
Yeah.
Actually, it would, because it was a wagon.
Okay.
So from that perspective, like I still am a wagon guy.
So wagon because for me, a
Avant.
wagon is a thing with wheels and
Oh,
like
sure.
wooden wheels, and a thing that, you know, you pull with horses.
Right.
So that's obviously not.
I don't know why we call it a wagon. That's a good question, but we butcher the English language constantly anyway.
But it's a station wagon, isn't it?
Correct.
And a
Yeah.
station is obviously where you catch a train or a bus. So I'm
You
not sure
know,
how that works.
Nothing makes sense. It's fine.
So what's the equivalent of a station wagon now?
Well, just an Audi Avant,
Okay, all
You
right.
know,
Okay, I get it.
which is an Avant, but
Yeah,
like
an Avant
here
is
we
an
call it
estate
a
car, isn't it?
wagon. But I guess, yeah, you would call it an estate car,
And-
as opposed to like a touring car, which is like a
Yeah,
a
and
longer
then there's another
sedan.
word. There's a word I've heard the word brake. So an estate car in Dutch can also be referred to as a brake. Anyway, just Google it. I'm not 100% sure.
BRAKE.
Yeah, as in the things that stop the car.
Right.
I don't know why.
I haven't heard that. That's
no,
crazy.
yeah,
Huh. Interesting.
bit nuts. But anyway,
So where along the journey from the five of yore?
So I've always had I had the Lamborghini Countach, whatever, however you want to pronounce it, on my wall as a kid.
Yeah, the poster.
Yeah, I had the poster, and I had, but I had a little bit more of it even as a kid. I still loved 60s Ferraris, 70s Ferraris, so 512 BBI, the 250 GTO, obviously, then everything else in that period. I was interested. I read, I was given copies of Autocar from my uncle whenever he had a spare copy and he'd read it, let me have it. So I knew all the top speeds and the 0 to 60s of everything at that time. And so I was fascinated, but I never, it was something that was never affordable or doable, or I had to focus on earning some money first,
Right.
and trying to. So I was never really a petrol head per se because I couldn't afford it. It was just one of those things. My mum, she was, her favorite brand of car was Volvo. So for me,
Great car.
yeah, but we're talking about the Volvo 345 GL, which is probably the ugliest car ever created, but the safest. I mean, there's a story behind this. My father, when I was 9 years old, he died in a car crash. So he left one morning, didn't come back, and it's a long time ago. So it's relatively easy to talk about now. So after that, that was it. And anything that my mum owns has to be
Safety.
yeah,
Safety first.
So it was Volvo after Volvo after Volvo, and that's kept us safe. It was the most important thing.
Yeah. Well, we mentioned amethyst metallic earlier.
Yeah.
Is that that's the actual name, right?
Yeah.
Amethyst metallic.
Amethyst metallic M4Z.
Okay,
Is
so
the color
this
code.
is the PTS Grail Car of Mine GT3 Touring 992.
Yeah.
You're smiling at me right now because you know how good it is. I haven't driven this car. I drove the GT3 991.1, so obviously a PDK transmission.
Yeah.
Yours is a manual shift, which, again, jealous of.
Yeah.
Walk me through your history with Porsche and how you landed on this car and that color.
So I had my experience with owning anything that would transport you from A to A, as I call it, as opposed to a utility car that takes your family on a skiing holiday or to the supermarket, was that they were obviously living in Europe, very expensive. You got nailed by the taxman for owning a car like that.
From A to A, I've never heard that before.
A to A.
That's genius.
No reason at all, just
Right.
for the drive.
Just for the drive.
Yeah.
I love that.
I think
I think that needs to be a license plate, from A to A.
A to A. That's what these cars are. That's what they're built for. That's why they give you the feeling they give you. So I digress. What I was trying to say was that anything in my price range was always going to be relatively easy to drive. I'll give you an example. Okay, so a 991 GTS convertible, great looking car, perfect car for the summer, PDA gearbox. The PDK left me a little bit cold, I have to say. After a bit sitting in the driver's seat for 60 minutes with traffic driving across Belgium for whatever reason, you just get to the end of your journey and it's like, okay, I'm ready to get out of the car. And it just didn't, give me enough of whatever I thought I needed.
So you had that car?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I didn't really know what I wanted from a car, and then I went through a series of family cars, estates, etc. Anything to get. We go skiing every year. Europe is easy, you can drive through Germany to Austria and back again. My wife's Dutch, so it's a bit of a Dutch thing to drive instead of flying, and I love it.
That's great.
We drive down to Bavaria, we stay overnight, then we drive into Switzerland, into Austria. Sorry.
So how far of a drive is that total?
It's about 850 kilometers. So it's about, you can do it in a day, but there's no point. You do 4 or 5 hours,
break it up,
you stop, and then you do another 3-4 into. So it's not that bad at all. So yeah, I wanted something that just didn't leave me cold. And manual gearbox. The 911R is a car that has done it for a lot of people, unaffordable, unattainable.
Right.
But that manual gearbox, when I heard about the 911R and what it represented, this short throw gearbox, light flywheel, it was like, wow, I at least wanted the chance to drive one, at least understand what it's all about. But I never got behind a wheel of a 911R. It's impossible. You can't just walk into a dealership. And I'd had no friends that had a 911R, and a few friends that had some great cars, great Porsches in particular, but not one of those. And so I took a punt. I just said to my guy at Porsche, and I had a relationship already. I hadn't bought a gazillion cars. In Europe, it's a little bit easier. There isn't there's no, Porsche dealers are not trying to gouge you. They're not.
They don't do the dealer markup.
No, they don't. They're not allowed to. It's market price. You pay retail, but there is not a massive queue of people. And as soon as I pick the car up, it's not going to sell for $100,000 over what I paid. It's going to sell for, it's going to hold its value, because as the publicity machine behind the GT3 and the GT3 Touring has raised awareness even in Europe. So people realize it's a great car, and there's a limited number. So Porsche Brussels are one of the biggest dealers in Belgium. They're owned by D'Ieteren, and D'Ieteren throughout the 70s and the 80s, they actually, when Porsche were having some problems financially, D'Ieteren were there to help them a little bit. I don't know the full story, and I'm not going to quote stuff that I don't really know a lot about, but I know that D'Ieteren are favored. They're favored by Porsche because of the help they've given over the years. So, my guy at Porsche Brussels, he had some influence, and he managed to get me an allocation. And I hadn't even driven one, but he called me 3 or 4 days later and said, there's a new 992 GT3 here. It's not a touring, but if you want to drive it, just come in. So I went in. I wasn't allowed to take it out on my own because it just had too many people wrap them around lampposts. So I took it out with a guy, and I couldn't do anything with it, but I could feel, it was a PDK as well, but I could feel the way it felt was incredible. But it was just up the road and back. So I had to wait for my car. I had to wait 2 bloody years for it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I know you went back and forth on the color.
Well, I went, we had issues with logistics and supply chains.
Right, because of COVID. Right. And supply chain stuff.
Yeah. And so I got messed up in all of that as well. I had
well, the longer you wait, the more mental anguish it becomes.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah. Look, I had a very close friend say to me, if you're going to choose a color, you need to look at amethyst. You need to look at the color was introduced on the 964. It's really special. It's really under the radar. A lot of guys are terrified of speccing a color like that because they think that it's going to be a lemon. It's going to look strange. And I think it's a great color, but it's important to make sure that the car was specced with the right wheels and the rest of the spec, because I think you can ruin it if you're not careful.
Right.
But yeah, I was told at one point that there was a stop order on ceramic brakes, couldn't have those. The PTS may be a problem. There was lots of stuff. The lights might not be available anymore. But yeah, my guy, hats off to him. He managed to pull through everything. And there was one point that if I couldn't get ceramics on the car, ceramic brakes that is, I may have just passed the order over. It's meant to be a lightweight car, and that element was important. So the whole thing together is just, it's a dream come true. And then when I finally got the car and I got the chance to drive that manual gearbox, oh my God, really, it's just like nothing. I drive from A to A, and it's probably can be 5 kilometers, as we call them back in Belgium, 5 kilometers in traffic. I'll have so much fun just doing that. It's just, it doesn't matter what speed you're doing. The car is alive. It's exciting. It tells you that it means business as soon as you turn it on. The way it sounds when you do that.
Now, did you change the exhaust? It's stock exhaust.
Yeah, so it's stock.
Okay.
And I live in a part of the world which is a little sensitive to emissions. It's sensitive to pollution. The Benelux in particular, in the Netherlands, they're all driving EVs, electric vehicles. Infrastructure is improving all the time. There's charging elements everywhere. And if you literally are going to drive with something that is just breaking the sound barrier and making that much noise is just...
You're going to have a lot of unhappy cyclists.
Yeah, basically. The touring is very discreet, under the radar sort of car. I prefer to keep it that way, and I love the touring for that reason. You know, just the snout at the front and the huge wheels and the twin tips at the back give it away. You know, and that thing that says GT3 Touring. But generally speaking, people are clueless.
Yeah, well, I mean that's the beauty of a 911 just in general is that like. Those who don't really know cars very well just think, okay, it's a Porsche, you know, like they don't know what trim level it is, you know. That's interesting. You mentioned skiing. Where in Austria do you guys go?
So we're really, I said I would never do this, okay. I heard stories about uncles, grandparents, you know, especially on my wife's side of the family. You know, her uncle, for example, her mother's brother, he's been going to the same hotel in Austria for 30 years.
Wow.
Every year. Same place. They're giving him a little gold badge, you know.
Does he get the same room?
He gets same room, everything. And he loves it, you know. And it's like, oh my God, that's so weird. I would never do that. I need that variety. I need to see the world, see different places. So we were told about a village called Berwang, right? And it's not that far. Yeah, it's a funny name.
So how many years have we been going here?
Okay, so it's not 30 years, but I have to tell you, you know, in a nutshell, we went over the border to a great region. All right, so there's a glacier. There's lots and lots of skiing. You don't have to stay within that mountain range. You can go down the road a little bit. It's not far from Kitzbühel, etc.
Okay.
So it's cosmopolitan, it's cool, it's hip. But this little village is just a bit off the beaten track. And in this village is a 4-star hotel. And we stayed there and were blown away by the service, the food. It was expensive, but it really justified the cost. And we loved it. And we've been back every summer and every winter for the last 4 years. I think we're probably on our 10th visit.
Wow.
Yeah.
I wonder what visit will get you your gold star.
Well, we got a milker bar on our last visit.
Nice.
Yeah. We got one each. So it's me, my wife and my daughter, and sometimes our dog in the summer.
Oh, amazing. That's so great.
But skiing is, you know, it really is the most wonderful thing to do. For us as a family, it's our favorite holiday.
Do you stick to the groomers or are you off-piste?
Well, I have a 12-year-old daughter who my wife's skiing history is that she learned from before she could walk.
Oh,
so
wow.
She's been going since she was a kid.
So she's proficient.
She's very good. She's a very elegant skier, just like her mother, actually. They both know how, they're never in trouble. Or it doesn't matter.
Ankles close together.
Parallel skiing,
Yeah.
all the way down. Doesn't matter how steep it is. Just really, really elegant. And I'm behind her looking as though I'm going to knock out half the forest, you know, literally just managing to stay on my skis. My daughter, Aurélie, she is now 12. She's been skiing all her life as well. And she is definitely now much better than me.
That's great.
Not as good as her mum yet.
Well, that's all right.
But yeah, I'm
She's still like growing, you know.
She's tall.
That's great. Well, listen, I'm thrilled you're here, A.
Yeah.
But B, happy to promote Molequin. As far as what's coming, what's next? Like, what are we looking forward to? Is there something you're excited about? That kind of thing. What's forward thinking?
So there's a few areas that we struggled with. And one of them was, for example, a smooth calfskin collection. We had... I wasn't overly happy with some issues with the leather. Some of the oils were causing some oxidization with the leather itself. But we've fixed that, and we're launching a smooth collection at some point during the year, and also just widening the offering a little bit. You know, we've got a huge community of customers now,
right? And
offering other leather accessories is something that is really going to play a big part this year. Collaborating with a lot of people, and you know, we're going to work with you. Looking forward to that as well.
Yeah, likewise.
And you know, that is exciting.
Folks,
obviously,
will have
top
to stay
secret.
Tuned. Yeah, top secret as of now.
Yeah. So that's something that we don't do a tremendous amount of collaborations, but when we do them, they mean a lot to us, and they're the ones that are important to us.
Great.
And so, yeah, just keep on building. We've had a few issues. We've had, we've been, over the last 7 years or so, we've worked very hard to build our Instagram account out. We built it to sort of 87,000 followers, which is pretty big. But at the end of last year, end of December, the account got suspended. And I don't want to waste this entire podcast talking about what happened and why. But I think most people that are into watches and spend time on Instagram will know that there is some issues at the moment with posts being taken down. There's an algorithm at work which is trying to police Instagram, and we've got caught in the crossfire and our account got completely suspended. We're working hard to get it back up and running, but it may not come back. And if it does, it does. If it doesn't, then it's fine. We'll move on.
Right.
I keep saying this, but Instagram doesn't define our business. It's helped us grow, but it doesn't define us. But that's something that has been a bit of a blip, and
Right.
I'll keep you posted on that.
Great. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. Absolute pleasure.
Yeah. Wonderful.
Finally, 121.
Well, I know. I think it's 125.
Okay, great.
Thanks, Michael.
It's a pleasure.
This wraps up this episode of the Standard H podcast. If you like what you heard, I'd love it if you'd share it with a friend or two. And if you have a moment, please rate and review the show, as it helps others discover these episodes. It absolutely helps far more than you realize. Shout out to Jensen Reed and Super Beautiful for the theme track. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.